The mojito effect is a well-documented scientific phenomenon amongst bartenders. As soon as you send one out, 10 more get ordered. For this reason, and because they are seen as a bit labor intensive, many of us like to have a grumble about them, but I think it's a great drink and honestly easier than trying to do a lot of shaken drinks. If made properly, it's way more balanced and refreshing than most other sort of club cocktails, and it has a long history of cultural significance. There are, as with all older cocktails, competing origin stories for the mojito. The precursor to rum was called aguardiente de caña and was a really rough spirit. We're talking like molasses moonshine here. Cubans would mix it with sugarcane juice, lime and mint, which were all readily available to make it palatable. Now along came Francis Drake to pillage Havana, but his crew were riddled with dysentery and scurvy. They sent some folks ashore looking for help and returned with this concoction, which I do think says a lot about the hospitable nature of the islanders. If it was me, I'd have probably been hoping that aguardiente turned them all blind. Instead, this magical tonic cured the crew and Drake left having only fired a few shots. The drink became known as El Drac. There are some other stories around Drake himself inventing the drink, but I reckon we should give the credit to the Cubans. The modern mojito took form as lighter, more refined rums entered the market and thirsty Americans overran Havana during Prohibition. It would make sense that they would be looking for the local equivalent to their beloved julep. The name mojito also has a few possible explanations. Some say it comes from the African mojo, meaning to cast a little spell, as a crude version would have been a knockoff drink for African workers on the sugar plantations. Others think it comes from the limey mojo seasoning or from the Spanish mojar, meaning wetness. They all make sense to me, as this drink is certainly limey, wet and magical. The Bacardi family in Cuba have a rather complicated history, but to me this drink does seem built around that grassy freshness from this rum. Of course, there are plenty of others which would work now, but at the time it was a really groundbreaking product. I have had people comment that it's not the same rum as it used to be, and I'm sure that's fair. It still makes a delicious mojito. I do think the crushed ice is pretty crucial to this drink. When I've worked in bars without a crushed ice machine, I'll always make a point of making sure that anyone who orders one knows that it's going to be coming out on cubed ice to avoid disappointment. The easiest way to make crushed ice at home is to use a food processor. If you have one that's powerful enough, please follow manufacturer's guidelines on this, because I'm not taking any responsibility. Otherwise, the old-fashioned way is to wrap ice in a tea towel and just whack it as hard as you can. Pretty good for stress relief as well. A lot of recipes will tell you to muddle the lime and the mint. I don't muddle, I just give the mint a gentle clap so as to keep the drink lighter and fresher, but if you do, then do it gently. So I do prefer just to do some fresh squeezed lime, find it a little bit easier. And next, it's the fun part. If you're feeling a little bit stressed with everything that's going on in the world, then I can highly recommend crushing your own ice using a big mallet. I do quite like that one of the guys that used to work at Bomba has called it Lockie's hitting stick, which I do think is cute because he's definitely much more likely to be the one getting hit by this than doing the hitting. So we're just gonna get some ice wrapped in a tea towel. This one's quite nice and thick, but obviously feel free to use a couple. You can get kind of purpose-built cloth bags, which look really cool as well and kind of absorb the extra moisture. But, you know, unless you're making mojitos every day, it's probably not really worth it. And then just give it a whack. So keep your fingers out the way. So when you open it up, it should be all nice and kind of pillowy. It obviously doesn't have to be proper fine granules, but as long as it kind of looks like this, then we're good to go. Now, just pick off about 5 or 6 mint leaves, should be plenty, and make sure you leave yourself the sprigs for your garnish. Give them a little clap and pop them in. Then we're gonna go 60 mils of Bacardi. Another light Spanish style rum like Pampero Blanco or Havana 3-year-old will definitely work as well. 20 mils of your fresh lime juice. I'm being a little bit lazy. I'm using the Monin cane sugar. You can obviously make it yourself, just 1-to-1 is fine. And I like doing the equal parts of lime and sugar in this one because I do kind of find that crushed ice soaks up sweetness a little bit. So it just is a nice balance and gives it a little bit of a nicer mouthfeel as well. Then we're just gonna scoop some ice in there. Give it a bit of a turn through. Then add some more. Now at this point, it obviously doesn't matter too much at home, but in the bar, you never want to be having your hands too near the rim of a glass. So if you do kind of get to the point where you're having to hold the ice in a little bit, then just use a bar napkin and kind of cover, and that way the ice isn't going to spill out as you turn it through. Just like to cap it off with a little bit more crushed ice, so it's as refreshing looking as possible. Tiny little dash of soda water. Get your mint sprig. I don't like to skimp on the mint sprig in Mojito. I think half the fun is kind of, you know, and half of the flavor that you get from the mint is actually what's going up your nostrils. So make sure it gets right in there. Should probably taste it first actually, before I give it to anyone. Delicious. Mojito. So now you know. I mean, it's pretty easy to understand the mojito effect, especially on a warm day. This just looks the most refreshing thing that you could possibly see. Oh, and it is the most refreshing thing that you could possibly drink as well. Just heaps of hydration, a little bit of sweet, a little bit of sour. The rum you can kind of taste, but it definitely, you know, again, like it's not the same as maybe drinking something like shorter and sharper and served up. As much as you know that it's there, it's not the star of the show. It's just like a little bit boozy, but still feels like you're very much refreshing yourself and not causing yourself any more damage. So that's definitely a nice thing. And of course, that really lovely, just big burst of mint in your face is always gonna wake you up.